All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Colman Power Organic Fitness Podcast. I have my latest guest, Maria Plaias, and she is a nutritional therapist, and we're going to be talking about all things thyroid function. Maria, welcome to the show.
Welcome to you. Thanks for taking me in the show, Colman. I'm happy to be here.
I'm after meeting Maria quite recently down at one of the retreats we're doing down in Skull, West Cork. And it was a pleasure to meet her. Actually picked her up in Skull on the way, and she got we'll call it the first, we had our first little chat. And that's when I said to myself, well, this would be an absolute brilliant way to get the listeners to know a little bit more about the thyroid function. And Maria being an expert in that field, that's why I brought her on to this week's episode.
I'm not sure if I'm an expert, but I've been working with thyroid issues for the past, let's say maybe 4 or 5 years, something like that. And both like low thyroid and just autoimmunity on the thyroid. And I had pretty good results. So I'm happy to talk about this topic. It's a very common topic.
Brilliant. And what we'll do is we'll start at the basics. I suppose, what is thyroid function and how does it affect the body, and how do people, can you tell a little bit more about the listeners to your knowledge of what thyroid function really is?
Well, thyroid, it's really much about everything in the body because it monitors everything that's working in the body. So it really, the metabolism depends on the thyroid. Your mood depends on the thyroid. How you digest can depend on the thyroid. Your energy levels can depend on the thyroid. So if your thyroid doesn't work properly, your quality of life and the way you feel like generally can be very much impacted. So you really want your thyroid to be as optimal as it can. And obviously, because it's such a common issue to have, imbalances in the thyroid, a lot of people will have weight gain, or will have anxiety, will lose hair, will have maybe skin rashes, digestive issues. So a lot of people wouldn't even know where to look for when they have like anxiety issues. They might go and get, antidepressants, or they might just, when they have weight issues, they just go and try all those very restrictive diets. And I'm really sure once you have this kind of imbalances, you need to have a thyroid check, because especially for women, it's such a common issue for women. You need to see if thyroid is, it's in the picture, or if it's just something else that's happening there.
How do you know if you have thyroid issues, whether it be a male or a female for that matter? Because as you touched on already, it is majorly important for optimal health.
Well, first of all, I think the best thing to do is to go to your GP and ask them to have your values tested. So you would check for TSH, which is your one of the first markers the GP would test, and then FT4 and FT3, which are the thyroid hormones. You need to have them in their free form. So that's why it's important to have FT3 and FT4, not only T3 and T4. And again, another 2 markers that will be very important to see, and you probably need to ask very gently your GP to test for these 2, because they are not necessarily on the list, are the thyroid antibodies. So those will be anti-TPO antibodies and anti-thyroglobulin antibodies. Those are 2 markers that you need to see, because in the realm of thyroid issues, probably 90% or probably even higher of the percentage is people with autoimmunity on the thyroid. So even if you have like slow thyroid, sluggish thyroid, that might be caused by an autoimmune problem and less just by a sluggish thyroid functioning.
Right. With, I suppose, both yourself and myself being in the category of foods we believe have a major effect on your overall health, what foods negatively affect your thyroid function? And I suppose if you can expand on how maybe harsh chemicals such as glyphosate can affect your overall health and your thyroid.
Oh, of course. So glyphosate is a big topic here, and we already know it has such a negative impact on health overall, not only on thyroid. But because I think when you eat, conventional farming type of foods, which have been sprayed with glyphosate, that will negatively impact your gut health. So you might be at a higher risk of having, intestinal permeability, leaky gut. And once you have leaky gut, you create, it's called the three-legged stool kind of autoimmunity pattern, and the three-legged stool is it's kind of a thing that has discovered by this Italian doctor that work on autoimmunity, Alessio Fasano, and he was saying that you need to have three type of things to develop an autoimmunity issue on thyroid or on any type of organ in the body, and that will be a genetical predisposition, some sort of triggering event, and the third one is intestinal permeability. So if you eat something that has been sprayed with glyphosate, and you're at higher risk of developing leaky gut, then you have the three-leg stool, and each one of these three-leg issues could be imbalanced, and then the stool will fall, right? So if you're already predisposed, especially, and you get leaky gut, then you're very quickly developing an autoimmune disease or some sort of other type of inflammatory issue. So leaky gut is a major issue in this, and obviously glyphosate is a big aspect of leaky gut for sure.
Yeah, and in most people's diet, that's the thing. There's not enough people consuming organic produce, which is forbidden in the use of the production of any of fruits or vegetables, and that's what's actually used in the speeding up and the ripening of grains such as oats. And I do recommend oats to people, steeping them overnight firstly, but organic oats, and it's a simple switch over from your diet. And as well as that, fruits and vegetables that we typically eat the skin of is so important to eat organically, and that's, I suppose,
God, for sure.
Yeah, made out each year, that dirty dozen and the clean 15. So important. I recommend.
So important. Yeah, for sure. If you mentioned things that would impact gut permeability, so apart from glyphosate, I know this is kind of a tricky and delicate subject, but a lot of people would react to gluten. So a lot of the people having issues with thyroid issues would impact to gluten, would react to gluten. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something connected to celiac disease. So it's not a very strong, allergy, but it could be something like a gluten sensitivity or gluten intolerance, and it's kind of hard to test it. But a lot of people would go, if I eat gluten, I might feel a bit, not. Some of them will have definitely digestive symptoms that they really connect to gluten. Some of them will have something else like skin issues, or again, mood issues, anxiety issues, or just energy issues. And once they've been put on a gluten-free diet for a while, they will definitely feel better, and they will definitely notice that gluten can be a major problem in this. And I've worked with a lot of clients. Some of them really wanted to have that tested, and we do have some sort of functional tests that will test for gluten sensitivity, not in Ireland but abroad. And we can test that through, you have a DHL bringing you the kit and you test at home. But even if you don't test, just by doing some sort of elimination diet, they will see definitely a good impact on their general health. And if you have any sort of food sensitivities, gluten being just the first one, that will definitely kind of create a vicious cycle with leaky gut, because it will impact on your gut, it will open those junctures, and then you're obviously going to get permeability. And then because of that, your body gets inflamed, and it kind of can create down the line more food sensitivities. So you really need to address this kind of aspect of gut health in order to impact positively your immune system if it's an autoimmune issue, or your thyroid health if it's just a sluggish issue, for sure.
It's very interesting. And I suppose with us touching on, is there any way of healing your gut? What foods or what approaches would you come and recommend to people?
So, well, for sure, eliminating the food that are causing the permeability in the first place. If it's just food, the foods are not the only ones. We just mentioned glyphosate as well. It can be other infections or toxins or stress or trauma as well. But if we're talking about food sensitivities, obviously taking out the foods that are causing this problem is the first step. And afterwards, you have to work on the healing. So all the, I know we talked as well. And when we met, you made us that amazing cucumber kind of sauerkraut and all that stuff. So fermented foods are really great for healing the gut. coconut yogurt, or if you're not allergic to dairy or sensitive to dairy, normal yogurt, kefir, all those like bone broth are really good. Like it contains all those good amino acids, the glutamine, collagen, so glycine, all those good amino acids are really, really healing for the gut. Maybe a nutritional deficiency, so vitamin A, vitamin D, zinc, if you are depleted in these ones, definitely they can impact your permeability as well. So you need to focus on eating antioxidant rich foods, the fermented foods for having the right kind of probiotics from your food, and having the right beneficial flora coming from just your foods, not necessarily supplementing that as well, but we need to cover the basic first.
Your gut health is so important because it's literally connected to everything in our bodies, and not enough people actually realize that there's more gut microorganisms found in your stomach than there are cells in your body.
Yeah, there is actually a book called 10% Human, because this is what we are 10% human, right? The rest of it is bacteria and a bit of viruses that live in good symbiosis and stuff like that. We have less cells in our body than bacteria for sure. So we need to have a good relationship with our guests and neighbors, I guess.
Totally. There are some topics that you want to kind of further expand on, that you have a couple of pointers there in front of you, if you want to even go towards a couple of those in this week's.
Yeah, so I thought I will touch upon maybe a bit more on nutritional deficiencies, because this is a major thing that I can see with people who have thyroid issues. And some of them could be, as I mentioned as well before, a bit, zinc is a major one. So it can impact how you use your thyroid hormones, how you convert your FT4 to FT3. And again, it's good for gut health. And then selenium, a lot of people are depleted or deficient in selenium, and selenium definitely impacts both how you produce your hormones and also the level of your antibodies. And for selenium, unfortunately, eating something that's rich in selenium is not always the solution, because we really don't know how much selenium is in there. I know the recommendation is to eat like 2 or 3 Brazilian nuts per day. and that obviously might work, but because we don't know how much selenium is in that nut, because the richness of the Brazilian nuts depends on the richness of the soil. And if the soil is not a good soil, or you can really check it, then it's kind of hard to measure how much selenium you get into your diet just by the Brazilian nuts. So you probably need to test selenium levels to see where you're at. But if you're not able to test selenium levels, I think a good supplement based on selenium, like selenomethionine, which is really high bioavailability, you can try that and supplement with that. And then iron, a lot of people are deficient in iron. And if that happens, obviously, because thyroid is responsible for your metabolism, sometimes what happens is that if your thyroid is sluggish or it's low or is attacked by your immune system, and then it doesn't function properly. So the result is still the same. You don't secrete the right gastric juices, so you don't have enough hydrochloric acid. And if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach, then you wouldn't be able to absorb and take away from your foods the B12 and iron as well. So a lot of people have a deficiency in iron, and iron again is very much one of the minerals that it's really good for. It's very used in the thyroid function. So you need to have those levels, up there. And obviously, a lot of people would complain with hair loss, and iron can be one of the causes of hair loss as well.
That's so important, Maria. We'll try unpack it. So what you've recommended for your, we'll slow it down for simply.
Yes.
We have zinc that you're recommending, you have selenium and iron. I suppose that you're recommending also to get your bloods checked. It's kind of like knowing where you are, what your starting point is, and improving on just that. And that's what I do with people as well. And you do the same. You look at what they're currently eating, and then you try and improve on areas that they're low in, whether it's low energy levels, looking at the thyroid function, low iron levels linked massively with low energy levels, and with women needing double the amount because their menstruation cycle is so important to have it incorporated into their diet. So what zinc foods would you recommend towards people, and what iron foods are you recommending?
So for zinc, I would go a lot with maybe, seafood. So a lot of seafood that it's very easily absorbable. Or if people are towards the vegetarian side, definitely pumpkin seeds or, on the seeds level. Now you have to be careful with seeds because people with thyroid, they might have some sort of sensitivity to seeds, and seeds are also very high in lectins and phytates. So you need to maybe, there is an entire process of how you are able to digest seeds better, and you need to soak them or sprout them to have them, reduce their amount of phytates and lectins. So you could do that with your seeds and nuts, but pumpkin seeds are great for zinc, for sure. They have a high quantity of zinc. And then for iron, probably the best food out there is liver. I know Irish people are not very fond of eating liver, but you can make pate, you can make different way of hiding the liver in different recipes. So liver for sure is one of the highest. And then if not, you can have, all the dark green leafy veggies that are very rich in iron as well. And they have also the C vitamin in there, which you need in order to absorb better the iron from the foods. So when you have leafy veggies, you have the full package. We have both the vitamin C and the iron.
That's why we're going to be best friends, because we're literally talking about the same thing. And when you recommend vegetables to people, I'm like, yes, go worry, go.
Like they say, if you want to be healthy, you need to, your diet has to be mostly made out of plants, and obviously unprocessed food, mostly plants, and a good few sources of animal protein and healthy fats as well. So plants need to be, the basis of your diet, regardless of what sort of diet you're having. Even if your diet is rich in meat, the plants have to at least occupy half of your plates every single meal. So half of your plate needs to be full of veggies for sure.
And why would you recommend that? For fiber, for antioxidants, for
everything,
minerals?
Yes, everything. Fiber, vitamins, oxidants, polyphenols, everything. And obviously, if you eat plants, those are naturally lower in glycemic index, apart from potatoes. But obviously, if you don't eat a lot of sweets, potatoes aren't necessarily an issue by themselves. So that will also keep your blood sugar level balanced, and fiber will keep your blood sugar level balanced because it takes a while for your body to digest high rich fiber food. So it's just and you feed your gut flora with that fiber, and it's all connected, and it's all very healing and healthy for your gut.
And I suppose, right, is there a diet that you would lean towards? Have you ever done, we'll call it diets, we'll call it the vegetarian diet yourself, or your vegan diets? Is there, and whatever diet you're currently on, do you recommend differently to what you currently do yourself?
So this is a delicate subject because a lot of people will be very, decided on one type of diet or the other. I don't think that one diet fits everyone. I think it really you have to look at what you absorb, how your digestion is, because you know what they say. I mean, they say you are what you eat, which is not exactly true. I mean, it is true, but it's not 100% true. It's not 100% accurate. You are what you eat, but you also are what you digest and absorb. Because if you eat and eliminate without, digesting and absorbing, then that food is just out of your system, and you don't get good nutrition. So I've been vegetarian and vegan. I played with different type of diets as well, but probably because the way my body is built, I wasn't absorbing the right nutrients. And that is also an aspect that a lot of people wouldn't consider, which is what your genetical makeup, and you need to test to see what your genes are. And now in the last few years there is a big talk on epigenetics and nutrigenomics, which is pretty much we have a few genes that our lifestyle and diet can impact on. And for me, at least, I know that I don't absorb B12 really well from foods. And if it's a B12 that comes from vegetable foods, it takes longer or it's harder for the body to absorb it. So I know I would need either supplementation, and I have here my B supplements always with me, but I also need, good quality meat so that I could absorb B12 better from that. And vitamin Bs are, are amazing for a lot of things in the body. We really need them in order to be healthy. So before you decide, I'm going to go vegan or I'm going to go vegetarian, you really need to know what your body needs or it's able to do from the foods you're consuming. Now, because I'm working with autoimmunity, the diet that it's mostly used in autoimmunity is, as I said before, is a diet that if people don't have huge digestive symptoms or issues, it's a high that's very high in vegetable protein. So a lot of leafy greens and a lot of vegetables, but also good quality meats like organic meats, grass-fed beef, and good fish, good salmon. If wild, if you can get it wild nowadays, it's a bit harder with toxins and all that. But good fats, avocados, coconuts, so all those good fats, but meat for sure. So you need meat because of the collagen, because of the glucosamine. You need it to heal your gut. And if you're vegetarian or vegan, it takes longer, or it's much harder to be able to achieve the same thing you would achieve with when you consume meat as well. But again, this is very much dependent on what your health issues are and what your genetical makeup is, for sure.
Yeah, I suppose that's one of the main differences. If you are on a heavily plant-based diet or a vegan diet, we'll categorize it as you have to take supplements to get your daily recommended amounts of vitamins and minerals. And for the most part, I much prefer to have a whole food approach. And that's why I don't want to be put in the bracket of, and when I get asked the question, it's Colman, are you a vegan or vegetarian? Or what diet would you like to put yourself into? I don't like labels, and I much prefer to, I suppose, eat foods that are local, that are fresh, that benefit me. And you said exactly the words. No two people are the same. Everybody's different. Why? Because everyone's gut microorganisms are different. We're all different ages. We exercise at different rates, at different tempos, and that's really important to know. There's no one shoe that fits every single body.
Yeah, true. And sometimes, like, I follow some people on social media. They're like raw vegans. They have been raw vegans for like 18 years or whatever, and they look like perfectly healthy. So some people can do that, and I actually admire them. But most people can't do that. And you can't just say, oh, you're not vegan, then you don't love animals enough, or I don't know, like that's, you can't have like a restrictive mindset. You have to be open, and you have to try on yourself and see what works for you. I felt really bad reintroducing meat in my diet, and I actually struggled because I lost the texture. I didn't like the texture anymore, but I knew it was good for me, and the blood results afterwards, the testing showed that. So you need to see what works for you, for sure.
No, that's important. Testing bloods, testing and seeing what works is, I suppose, paramount for optimal health. And that's, I suppose, what the two of us are trying to promote here. People living happier and healthier lives. And that's it. For anyone to say that you should be a certain diet or follow a certain regime and not understand the way your body works is, I suppose, irresponsible.
Yeah, for sure. And it's more a complex topic here, because we're entering the climate change and all that. And again, even here, some say that, not necessarily producing meat is the most impactful on the climate change. Maybe, producing rice can be more impactful, but it's a long topic. And again, I don't have all the elements either. I just know, like, you have to look first on what's good for you, and then, look around you as well. But yeah, as you said, like, if we eat local, so you definitely reduce, all the pollution and all that, the transport of foods from, I don't know, we don't need to eat papaya for sure every day, or bananas. We can eat, apples and strawberries and blueberries and whatever we have here in Ireland. So again, and if it's organic, so you have, respect and care of the soil you're growing your plants to. That's definitely a huge impact on climate change as well. So yeah, that's that as well.
Right, getting on, I suppose, to thyroid function again, and how can thyroid affect your weight loss, especially as we age, and if anybody who suffers with thyroid issues? Could you expand on, I suppose, that point a little bit?
Yeah, so I had the most amazing results actually on that, because if you have food sensitivities, going back to the conversation of food sensitivities, you tend to get inflamed. And I had a lot of clients who, just by giving up one food in their list of potential sensitivities they had, they managed to lose like spectacularly a lot of weight without doing a lot of effort. Now, these are not most of my clients. They'll be lovely to be most of my clients, but I had those cases as well. Some have to do more tweaks and ticks, like because you have water retention when you are inflamed. So a lot of weight loss can be just that, just water retention, not necessarily like, fat necessarily. So you lose a lot when you reduce your inflammation. And because I was saying, like, thyroid is responsible on your metabolism, so you really need to make sure your thyroid levels are accurate. You should have your TSH. There are different levels of how you look at thyroid. I believe most normal ranges in Ireland are up to 4.2, I think. But you definitely want to have your TSH at least below 2.5. So that's kind of the optimal level, between 1 and 2. 2.5 according to some other specialists. And if your thyroid is within those optimal ranges, then everything works better. So you need to make sure you keep those levels within an optimal range. And the same for FT4 and FT3. Some GPs wouldn't test for FT3, they would just test for TSH and FT4. But FT3 is actually the only active hormone that our body actually uses. And I have a lot of clients who suffer from what is called cellular hypothyroidism, which means they might have good TSH, good enough FT4, but then their FT3 levels are low, which means that because there is inflammation, the cells are not really open to receive the thyroid. So you don't have or your liver or your kidney or some other organs in your body that do convert FT4 to FT3. So if your liver is sluggish, your bile is sluggish, or your kidneys are not exactly working how they should, then you don't get the conversion properly. And then your FT3 levels are low, and then you have that cellular hypothyroidism, regardless of the fact that the other levels are good. So again, you need to check your levels. You need to see where your TSH is at. And even if it's not the most sensitive marker, you still need to have it within optimal ranges, and then check the other levels as well. And obviously, stress impacts and blood sugar levels are really a huge issue with a lot of people, and especially now after being in lockdown for so long, a lot of people kind of forgot about exercising and eating healthy. And if you have what we call a blood sugar roller coaster, so you have this glycemia caused by diet that's too high in carbs or something like that, that will stress your adrenals, and adrenals are part of your immune or your endocrine system. So adrenals will stress negatively your thyroid. And again, if you have stress, which is just normal stress, daily stress from work or whatever's happening in your life, those levels will impact your adrenals, and the adrenals will impact your thyroid. So again, that will stress your adrenals. So when somebody comes to me with a thyroid issue, you have to look to see what stress is what, if it's diet, if it's lifestyle, if it's stress, or if it's lack of sleep. I know, and we talked about this already of the podcast, about how good it is to go to bed very early and wake up early and keep your circadian rhythm like properly there where it should be. Because if you go to bed after midnight and you don't get the proper sleep, or you wake up during the night, then obviously you wake up already with your adrenals being stressed out. And that just goes downhill from there, obviously, because you stress your thyroid, and then maybe your thyroid stresses your sex hormones, and it's just the reproductive hormones are also part of the endocrine system. So you kind of get a lot of imbalances from there, for sure.
Everything is linked, whether it be your foods, your sleep, your lifestyle, what you're doing on a regular basis. And it's asking people, what are you currently doing right now? Whether they're I'm coaching them or you're mentoring them, the whole idea of it's literally you're sitting down with that individual. What are you doing the moment you get up? What food are you having first thing in the morning? What time are you eating it? What are you doing? What are you working at? Whether you're doing a thesis, whether you're doing a highly stressful job, are you constantly on your phone? Are you listening to the news on a regular basis? Are you listening to doom and gloom, negativity? And as a result of that, are you getting outside and At what time are you going to bed at? What are you doing before you go to bed? Are you doing stretches? Are you exercising on a regular basis? What exercises are you doing? Should you be doing those type of runs? Are they elevating your heart rate, causing more stress? Or should you be doing lower intensity with slightly added weights, whether it be dumbbells or kettlebells? These are such an important thing to look into.
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of people will ask me, what type of exercise should I do to lose weight? And I'm like, well, you're right with your exercise, because I can't tell somebody you have to do, HIIT exercises or, very weightlifting exercises if their levels are like, if they're not really good even for going out for a walk. So you have to look what that person is at and start slowly and increasing slowly, so they wouldn't get more depleted and energized. And obviously, if you're the second day or the third day, you can't really get out of bed because you're completely wrecked after you've done one day of exercise. And obviously, what you've done is you're not supposed to do that. You should, take it slowly, go for walks, go for power walks or Pilates or something like that. Like, don't go full immersion right away. Even if we really want to see, results very quickly, that can kind of turn and hit us in our back if we do it very quickly, because you tend to get depleted, your adrenals get depleted, and then your thyroid gets depleted. It's really kind of a sweet spot for everything. And there is also another aspect that I would like to talk about, because you mentioned weight loss. A lot of people now are looking into intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting is amazing, and there's so many good benefits to that. And you have autophagy if you fast for more than a few hours, more than 15 or 14, depending on who you're talking to. So a lot of people go, okay, I want to lose weight. I'm not feeding myself from, 6 to 12 or whatever. But then if you have a thyroid issue, that can definitely impact your thyroid functioning. So just be aware that even if it's healthy for most people or it's good for most people, if you have a thyroid issue, you need to take it slowly as well, and you shouldn't go, overboard. So I think the 16 to 8 kind of ratio is the most you can do. Don't go overboard from there. Like, don't go 18 to 6 or 20 or 24 for intermittent fasting, because that really can impact your thyroid. And I had clients who came to me after they done, challenges or whatever they saw online of, OMAD, 1 meal a day or whatever for a few days, for a few weeks. And then their thyroid was like completely wrecked, and they felt worse despite having done all those sacrifices and being very careful with what they ate. So again, for everything, there's like a sweet spot. And if you have thyroid issues, or if you have some other sort of imbalance, you need to see how it works for you and how much you can you can push, or you can work around that to have the maximum benefit.
Yeah. Before you understand your body and understand what foods benefit you, it's so important not to pick a diet. And that's what I try and emulate in this podcast or posts or things. We're so unique. And for you to just be, because someone put up a post, intermittent fasting is the new diet for weight loss. That's what we all should be doing. It improves your cognitive function. It helps you sleep. It actually is something that we designed for years. We should have fast for periods, and then we found some meats and fruits and berries, and then we all ate food together, and then we didn't eat too close to bed. Why? Because it's a huge digestion process that is carried out in the body. People are missing out on the huge thing. We're so unique, and that's the thing about it. You can't just paint everyone with the same brush.
No, you can't. That's a nice expression. Yeah, painting everyone with the same brush is really wrong, and it's kind of also monocolor.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I suppose I want to finish in with a kind of a 3 tips for improving your thyroid function. If you could put it in, I suppose, the A, the B, the C, what would your 3 tips be to the general public?
So be aware of what food can cause you any sort of symptoms. So if you can do for yourself before going to any type of practitioner, create some sort of food and mood diary, and you can figure out what food causes what to you. Be aware that gluten, dairy, and soy, if you are having thyroid issues, can be one of the major ones. This is one tip. A second tip would be very much aware of your sleep patterns and your sleep hygiene, what is called a sleep hygiene. So no, no blue light before sleeping, no social media, no phone, no TV 2 hours before sleeping, so you wouldn't raise your cortisol levels too high, and you need to be able to secrete your melatonin. So do that, and try to go to bed at least before 11, maybe 10, but a lot of people would say 10 is impossible, but let's say before 11. So you get those 8 hours of sleep. And third one, move a little bit every day. Get out in the sun. If there is no sun, get out in the light. Open those curtains as soon as you wake up, so you get that cortisol awakening response, which is very healthy for you in the first 5 minutes you wake up. Open the blinds, look at the sun, go out for a walk. If you can do those 10,000 steps a day, it's great. If you can't, as much as you can, each day is better than, you're always beating the people who are staying home and stay on the couch. So get a bit of movement, get a bit of sun, eat good food, locally, preferably locally grown, and be aware of your food sensitivities and get good sleep.
Well, Maria, that was an absolute cracker, I suppose, of a way to wrap it up. And the 3 tips, to even recap them, are: be aware of your foods, your sleeping pattern is so important, reducing your stress, exercise in and outside as much as you possibly can towards your fitness goal. And I suppose if you let the listeners, where's the best place for them to contact you on your social medias? And I'll be putting it in the show notes anyway, but just call them out here.
Yeah, so my name is Maria Plaias. My surname is a bit harder to remember, but you can find me at mariaplaias@gmail.com. That's my email. And on social media, you can find me on Facebook, Maria Plaias Nutrition, or on Instagram at Maria Plaias Nutrition. My website is still a work in progress, so it's going to be up probably in a couple of months or so. But you can find me on social media or via email for sure. And we can chat there if you have more questions, or if you want to look more in detail into your thyroid issues.
Well, I'd say that's a good way as ever. We'll be putting those all in the show notes. And Maria, thanks very much for coming on to the show. And I always finish up these podcasts by saying, stay tuned, stay classy, and keep it organic.